Let's talk about the things we need to preserve water, to reforest and preserve forests. So I have been watching a beautiful video about India and how the community digged a pond and basically leveraged the water into the pond and then collected water from the rooftops and basically reforested the entire place so that they can preserve crops, so that they can have good farming. And there are the techniques of how to do that, which I think if you watch these videos, and you can nag me in the comments to put it in the comments, then you can definitely bring back the water. Now I want to talk about of how to preserve the water. And so you have to understand that the evergreen forests are an ecosystem, and there's a reason why the evergreen forests are associated with the golden ages. I'm going to talk about the understandings from my Uranus Beta Persei and fifth lunar mansion talisman that I made, that is conjoining with Regulus and invisible Venus. Not invisible, yes, I think invisible Venus. And let's talk about what are the practices that society needs to have to preserve the waters. So first of all, children are must allowed to have childhood, okay? And conception of children is, and you can translate, okay, you can give credit and translate this text if this is for people like from India or from China or from Japan or everywhere, or Russia, anywhere in the world, Africa. And so first of all, children are must allowed to have childhood. It doesn't mean that they cannot help in the work or help in the field or something like that, but they must allow to have childhood. They must allow the time to play. Childhood is youth. And if we want to preserve youth, we need to have the source of youth, and this is children, and so they must be treated okay. So we cannot have like pedophilia or anything like that. And children also communication. So when it comes to believing children, okay, that is very important. Children don't lie unless they learn, okay, that, so not to have like secrecy where they cannot talk or something like that, not to limit or restrict their movement, okay, so that is something that must be allowed. They must be allowed to play out in the field, and it's good for them to have communication, okay, with the elder people. That prolongs the life of the elders. And just to keep in mind that they must be protected, so not governed by many rules. That's the meaning of childhood. It's the child spirit, the play spirit. Conception of children must be with willing consent, and that tends to arrange the marriage. I know in cultures like India, and being an astrologer, that great emphasis on astrology in arranged marriage. I must say, we work also with the outer planets, okay? So let's say Uranus. Uranus is planet of astrology. So this is the planet where, for example, I would use, if a client comes to me and I have a question, then a technique with Placidus Housing and Nicholas Janovich technique would be to look at Uranus, why they come to astrologer, what is my greatest value to them. So, for example, I have Uranus in Jupiter sign tropically, and in Scorpio sign sidereally, so that means I would have great contribution when it comes to sexual energy of people, sexuality of people, how that affects their relationships and the worldview, and it's all together, okay, whether you interpret it tropically or sidereally. Uranus is also planet of divorce, and so we cannot have good matchmaking, good astrology signs for matchmaking for people without considering that what governs astrology governs divorce. And so divorce must be allowed. Separation of couples must be allowed. Okay? And so we must accommodate for the solitary person. Uranus is a lot about space. And Uranus helped you to repond the ponds. Yes, I do. I think I have here one and here another one. Thank you. And so accommodation for the solitary person, accommodation for children to have childhood, okay? It's good to have a matchmaking and to have read astrology chart is very good, but the divorce must be allowed. The thing is that what we do when we reforest, we basically work on the karma. So we are basically changing the notion of karma. We decide that whatever was here that brought to desert, okay, we change for the notion of karma. So we are creating good karma in the place. And all the things that are creating good karma, they must be allowed to everyone. Everyone must be allowed, okay, to create the good karma. So let's say the way we deal with conflicts or the way we deal with things, okay, everybody must be allowed. Children must be believed. Women must be respected as much as men, and vice versa. The Uranus also rules gender non-conforming people. Okay, so whether it's gay marriage or gay coupling or just a person being in different genders. Okay, so that must be accommodated. So let's put it all together. Accommodation for the solitary person. Children only to come from willing consent. The sex, okay, sexual relationships must be for the willing consent of both partners. Okay, also mean for women, if you had a sex and something like that, not to tie up in marriage, both if there was rape or if there was sex and baby born. So to accommodate for the baby, yes, because we cannot force someone on medical procedure, but for community to accommodate for the couple without forcing people to either marry or divorce, without forcing people to have sex or try to force them like not to have sex when everyone is consenting, okay? Except for children, of course, that they need to have childhood. Life energy for children is for creation, is for living, is for exploring for their own bodies, yes, but not to create these inversions. And those things basically are the flow of water. So this is caregiving. Validation of emotions of children. Okay, it's different karma, especially if you come from karma where the children would have come to the world with debt and they always have to serve for the elders. No, children need to have childhood, and what happens when child has childhood, then the elders are served because they reconnect with youth. And this is how the children pay their debt, basically. By being the childlike spirit that they are, they reconnect the elderly with youth and they pay the debt, okay, that they come here to the world with. Because yes, debt incarnate us, but you think about debt as, let's say you take a loan to start a business. So your debt incarnated your prosperity, your wealth. This is the role of debt, okay? It's not to enslave you, but to say like you hold commitment for something, okay? And so it's the fact that it's not that the child is supposed to be serving you when you are sick and elderly. It's that the child is playing and playful, and now you have energy, okay, to get up, to do something that you weren't thinking to be doing. Of course, to accommodate for people who find it more challenging. But this is to retrieve life in the bones. Those things are all preserving of evergreen forests. Okay, so notions compatible with golden ages. And now that we are already doing the physical work, okay, in matter, and we managed to forest a place, to create pond, to create water, all we really have to do is to adapt our culture, our society, to the ecosystem of prosperity that stands the test of times, and those ponds will never go dry. So this is how, if we go with Uranus through Taurus, okay, planet of astrology through Taurus, is both the ecosystem and talking about the deep things like sexuality, marriage and divorce, respecting the yin, respecting the yang, okay, the deep psychology, the way magic is used, and the notions of karma of the land, okay, because this is Taurus, the karma of the ecosystem. And so for a lot of these places that are now reforested, that now have the ponds and have the things, what we want is to preserve these things. Okay, so we are exempt from the karmas of the changing times, what people call dark ages, so the 300 years of transitions. And so this is, yes, all compound to 10 minutes. And that is something that the more the culture is exposed to, we understand that in order to change the land from desert to a forest, or desert to lush ponds, and to be resilient and sustainable as community, for the marginalized of the marginalized become resilient and prosperous, is both we tended to the marginalized. First of all, we changed for our notions, we tended to the poor of the poor, to those that need this love and this water the most, and then we reinclude them again with Eris on Andromeda. Yes, modernly we reinclude that which was marginalized into society. We reconcile. So what was done before is not the question, it's what we do now, because we can, if we can create of Sahara desert or of deserts in India a forest, then we can revive life in the bones of everyone, okay? This also means that neurological diseases we didn't think we can curate. We can curate curation of sexual trauma that we didn't think we can curate. We can curate, okay, with the cultural changes all across the board and the nervous system changes that are supported, because our action, and if you are thinking, or I'm afraid of karma, of what will be, now that I understand this and I done wrong, don't worry. You already, if you dug up these ponds, or if your community dug up these ponds, you have already set in motion with your physical activity the transformation that is created those waters, and that means you already established the nervous system to allow for this recovery and for this healing. Okay, so if you are doing this or starting this right now, that you're already taking physical action. You build containment, you build a psychological, it's not just resilience, but it's actually containment and inner nourishment that rejuvenates the well water. When we had the Ketu on Scorpio, this is what happened. We rejuvenate the well water. So that could be considered a miraculous healing, but it's basically, when we break it down to action, we had technology to bring back the water. On a holistic level, it's technology to bring back the well-being. And those actions that were taken all around the world, okay, to reforest deserts, for basically raising into conscious awareness of everyone, with the need to also make social changes, for also recover from sexual abuse, for do talismans, okay? And I'm very in deep gratitude for all of these forces and all of these communities that I may not know and may not even speak my language, because their action have been facilitating also my recovery and my healing. And this is my humble contribution, okay, to keeping the lush forests and the fertile soil and fertile communities alive. So thank you for listening.